Welcome to the Mind Myself podcast. I'm Esther, and it is my pleasure to be bringing you information about healthcare approaches, health issues, and people's health journey stories, all from the complementary, holistic, and integrative perspectives, helping you become your own best health advocate and helping you make your own informed choices because you matter. Welcome to the Mind Myself podcast, Conversations with E. I'm Esther, and it is my pleasure to have Deepak Saini with us today, talking about his own personal, amazing, and dramatic health story. Welcome, Deepak.
Thank you, Esther. I appreciate being here today.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit, before we dive into this story that you have to tell us a little bit about your credentials and what it is that you do in your life right now.
Absolutely, sure. Yeah, so I have a lot of credentials, but the two big ones, I'm an ICF certified coach and also a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. And to my knowledge, I don't think there's many of us that have that combination. So I don't want to say I'm a unicorn or anything like that, but not that many people go and get both of those. Plus some other other certifications I have as well. And typically the people that I work with now are driven and successful leaders in their could be corporations, could be entrepreneurs, to help them change their relationship with aging and change their mindset around aging so they can have, better sleep, more energy, even better relationships, and yes, put aging on pause and even reverse aging. And so that's what I work on now. I coach people on how to reverse aging.
Wonderful. And I know you have a fascinating story, and I'd love to spend our time just talking about what growing up was like for you and how did you get here?
Absolutely. So, yeah, as far back as I can remember, I was always the chubby kid. You look back at pictures and everything that my parents were in the hospitality industry, and later on when I was in my early teens and onwards, they had their own restaurants and bars, and they did a lot of catering and that type of thing. So food was always a reward. Food was always around, type of thing. I think Esther, we've talked offline before. We have a lot of similarities or thoughts around nutrition. So when you're eating essentially restaurant food, because that's what my parents would prepare it because they had restaurants. You're eating restaurant food, the bad oils, et cetera, et cetera. It's not the best for you, especially when I got to a certain age when my parents are really steeped and they're working a lot of time. We weren't having home cooked meals. We'd eat at the restaurant. Come over, have dinner at the restaurant, or they'd bring food home from the restaurant. So that the journey started before that, but that was kind of the last push that really got me really overweight. At 18 years old, I was 100 pounds heavier than I am now. So I was over 270 pounds. I'm a little bit under 6 feet. So by classification, I'd be considered morbidly obese at 18. I started playing football 4 years prior to that, and I was already a chubby kid. And I remember I had to actually lose weight to make the team because I was too big for the other kids. And then, so in that 4 years that I played football, I gained 100 pounds in those 4 years. So that's just not sustainable. That's just too hard on the body. Layer in those weight struggles. I have an autoimmune condition that I was chronically sick all growing up, like 3-4 times a year, chronic bronchitis, all those types of things. But what really was the impetus for me, and let me take it back. And I did all the yo-yo dieting stuff, the grapefruit diet, and I, tried vegetarian for a while, and this, that, and the other, and at one point I was, I was kind of powerlifting, so plain chicken breast and broccoli, steamed broccoli, like I've pretty much almost tried all these things, and yeah, you can, if you essentially starve yourself and count calories and that sort of thing, yeah, you can lose weight in the short term. But I did that roller coaster, 20-25 pounds up and down for from probably high school onto my mid 20s.
And just before you go on,
yeah,
I know we hear a lot about the emotional toll that dieting and this kind of weight has for women. Tell me about it from your perspective. You were a guy. How did that feel? And what was it like with your peers?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So when I was playing football in high school and first year university, especially in high school, there was, I was good. Like I was big and I was fat, but I had just enough quickness that, I was good for my position. I was a team captain, I was a leader on the team, and that brought some, not that I didn't have friends, but that also brought like that little bit of, I don't call it notoriety, but like in your little small circle of high school, like I was pretty popular and that sort of thing. But that didn't necessarily transcend to, when you're a male at that age of, testosterone's running high, chasing girls, that whole sort of thing. That didn't necessarily translate. So, and I, quite a, many girls who like, well, I just want to be friends, because, they weren't attracted to me because I was, obese. So yeah, that's certainly played a role, and yeah, it's an emotional time as well as a young man. So I can't even compare myself to women. Well, luckily, my girls haven't gone through that yet. They're young. I'm sure we'll have to deal with that at some point. But so I can't compare my experience to anything that a woman would have went through. But yeah, we guys have to deal with that too, and it was stressful and it was emotional for sure. Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for that question.
Yeah, for sure. So you're in an emotional turmoil, teenager to young man. There's all these hormones flooding for sure. And then you've tried all these yo-yo diets. You're playing football. You're just good enough to be still maintain your leadership status, which is awesome. But there's this niggling thing, and I imagine that there was a toll being put on your whole body and your health. Like, you talk a little bit more about the toll
Oh
and then
yeah.
your autoimmune stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the autoimmune stuff went way back, always getting sick. That happened in football season too. And just try and, you know, take a couple days off and just get back to it. Like I don't think I've ever missed a game. I've played games with like high fevers and stuff like that because I'm just playing that type of thing. So that always went on. And I had a lot of nagging injuries, knee pain, back pain, all these sorts of things, and I'll come back to those how they just all cleared up later. I thought I had like knee damage and stuff like that just from playing football and all the wears and tears of and carrying all that extra weight. But once you lose the weight and you reduce inflammation through nutrition, which we'll maybe get to a little bit later, magically all that knee pain and stuff goes away. But just to round out our story here, so fast forward, struggling with all those things, and slowly whittling down the weight a little bit. 8 years ago, I hurt my back really bad. I have I had no flexion. I couldn't bend over. So can't tie your shoes, can't put on your socks, hard to get in out of a chair, which includes the toilet. But my youngest daughter was a baby at the time, and I couldn't bend over to pick her up out of her crib, and that was really depressing to me. I didn't really recognize it at the time, but I probably was in depression. So in trying to find a way to heal my back, so ultimately I found out that I have degenerative disc disease in my L4, L5, L5, S1. So for those who don't know, that's low back. So I found a way to heal myself. I put all my resources, all my energy into trying to find a way to heal myself on my own, because the Western medical system kind of did me no favors. I like to say I wasted 18 months of my health, ineffective shots, ineffective treatments, etc. I found a way to heal myself, and in the process of healing my back, my autoimmune condition cleared up. I made lifestyle changes. My autoimmune
Say
condition cleared
more,
up.
say more, a little bit more about that. So what kind of lifestyle changes did you do? That sounds dramatic.
Yes. Okay. So let me take a step back. So what I found that was working for me was PRP, platelet-rich plasma. So I'll just quickly describe this. So they take your own blood, they spin it in a centrifuge, take the healing bodies, the platelets, which are very rich, and then they inject back into site, so into my back. And they were very upfront with me that low back is a very tricky spot. This might take 3 or 4 procedures, knee, ankle, shoulder, etc. Usually one time is good enough. I ended up doing 8 in a row. Just took me that long to feel comfortable enough where I felt like I could stop. And so I was paying out of pocket, so it's not an inexpensive procedure. So it's usually, so when they do the shot, they inject your own platelets back into you. It causes inflammation, so you're actually worse off for like a day or two than when you went in, and then it heals and you get a little bit better. And you're kind of supposed to cycle it every 4 to 6 weeks. Just as the effect is starting to wear off, you do it again. Again, I was paying out of pocket, so I was trying to stretch it to 6 weeks out. In doing the research and trying to just keep how to heal my back better, even though I started the process, I came really across the idea of inflammation and how, inflammation, from a joint perspective in this case, but have since learned it causes so many other issues in our body, all sorts of diseases and that sort of thing. So it was right before the fourth procedure, the doctors drew the blood, he's spinning it, we're just having a chat. I said, hey, like, I'm a CPA by profession, right, and a professional accountant. That was my first career. I said, hey, like, am I understanding the science right? That if I bring inflammation down in my body, systemic inflammation down, this procedure should work better. Even though we're injecting right at site, if you have inflammation in your shoulder, your gut, or somewhere else, it's going to sort of disperse and be less effective if you didn't have, if the only inflammation was like the injury. Am I understanding this right? And he's like, yeah, no, you totally understand. That's exactly like, no, very great job. You totally understand. So he must have read the expression on my face, because I was about to tear him a new one for not telling me this before, like, bring down inflammation. And he said, like, whoa, I have to apologize. Honestly, most people will not change their lifestyle, will not change their diet. It falls on deaf ears. So I kind of just stopped telling people. And I said, look, listen here, buddy, like, I'm not golfing. I'm not running. I can't pick up my daughter. I'll do whatever. So that day, like, it was too late. I'm doing the procedure. He's about to inject me. So we do it. But that day, cold turkey, I started eating clean. Now that's evolved over time and it's different for different people. And I just went with that, essentially. I mean, I had some roller coasters, of course. It's hard to make a habit change like cold turkey, but essentially I made this habit change of eating clean for the next number of months. And I felt like I was getting better I was getting a little bit incrementally better every time I did the procedure, but it seemed like eating clean and bringing inflammation down via nutrition, I was recovering from the procedure itself better. I was getting more mobility. It seemed like I was getting greater incremental improvements. So I just kept at it. And then, lo and behold, 5-6 months later, as life happens, we get behind sometimes, and oh, haven't done laundry, grab an old pair of pants from the back of the closet, and like, I say to my wife, I'm like, I think I might have lost some weight. These pants are a little bit big. And she like looks at me like, what are you, an idiot? Of course you've lost. You can totally see it in your face. So, having been someone who struggled with weight their entire life, as long back as I can remember, I was never one to jump on the scale all the time. We had a scale, so I grab it out of the back of the closet, blow the dust off of it, stand on. I was like, holy crap, have lost a ton of weight since the last time I weighed myself. So that was the start of the process. And of course, people like, hey, how'd you do it? People only see the outside, right? They don't see the internal struggle. They don't see the depression, the sadness that I can't pick up my daughter. All they see is the weight loss and the baggy clothes, all this, over time. So, hey, can I buy you a coffee? What'd you do? And I'm starting to give them resources. Oh, this is what I learned. Read this book, etc. And that passion of helping others in this limited capacity led to me thinking, maybe I have a different calling. Maybe I can save people from not having to go through the struggles that I went through essentially my entire life, but certainly this last 2 years that I had been going through. If I can save somebody from having to go through that and not be able to bend over, not be able to pick up their own child, etc., maybe this is something worth doing. So I ruminated that for a while, but eventually I decided this is what I'm doing. I'm going to go into this field and start coaching people. And of course, I've evolved over time in the approach I take, etc. But that's how it all started.
Wow. So you went from numbers to nutrition and beyond, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's true. It's funny you should say that, because I'm still really big on quantifying things. So I still bring numbers in, I guess.
Of course you do. Of course you do. So how long ago did that transformation happen? And it looks like you've been able to maintain that, which is one of the biggest struggles I think that people have, is we can do short-term things for ourselves and then we sort of backslide or change our mind or just go, whatever, and throw up our hands. You've managed to maintain this journey and perhaps continue to evolve it and get better at what you're doing and more informed. What was the secret for you, or what's caused you to be successful at this?
Absolutely. So it's been approximately 8 years since I lost all that weight and have kept it off, plus or minus, 5 or 10 pounds here with the seasons, etc. Actually, when COVID first hit and we were home, I made the intention of actually trying to put on lean muscle mass and changed my workout routine. So I put on about 5 pounds of muscle during COVID, so a little bit higher. But this one's one interesting thing before I really answer your question is that I mentioned earlier that I put on 100 pounds in those 4 years when I started playing football. Once I lost all the weight and et cetera, and I got to just what I call my equilibrium, where I'm about now, again, that plus or minus 5 pounds. Ironically enough, it's the same weight I was before I started playing football and I put on that 100 pounds. My body composition is different. I'm not chubby and stuff, and I have more lean muscle mass, but my weight is the same. So I think I somewhat believe that we have this equilibrium point where our body wants to be at based on genetics and structure and et cetera. So I just find it very interesting that I did this roller coaster all along, but I ended up at the same spot essentially. So, but for me, to answer your question, it's that memory of how I felt 8 years ago and all that pain I was going, not only the physical pain, but the mental pain of not being able to pick up my daughter, my younger daughter, and even my older daughter, because it was 3 at the time. I couldn't pick her up over my head and spin her around and play all those type of games that many fathers do. And it's that memory of never wanting to go back there. Forget about, let alone never going back to wearing those bigger clothes, the double XLs, triple XL shirts and etc. And never wanting to go back there. It's that I never want to go back where I can't do stuff with my kids. And that's my guiding light. That's my purpose. That's my why. And that's why I feel I've been successful in keeping it off or, maintaining where I'm at now for the last 8 years.
Fabulous. And as we almost come to a close, so this has led you to actually a career path. Can you give us in brief what you do to help people achieve this same kind of satisfaction, health, longevity? Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So when I first started, I started working with people who were like me, back pain, weight loss. But as I evolved as myself as a person and my own goals changed, once my mind had been open to the possibilities, I'll take a half a step back here. When you struggle with health your entire life and energy levels and that sort of thing, you're just I just want to make it to the end of the day. I just want to make it to the end of the weekend. I'm just waiting for that vacation. You could even be in financial sense. If I just get that next promotion, if I just get that next raise, et cetera, and you just think very short term. Once I overcame my health challenges and the world kind of opened up to me, and of course I educated myself as well, and I realized there's no reason why I have to have the same type of health life as my parents or my grandparents. There's no reason why, if I don't put the proper steps in place and do the right things, that I can't be a centenarian, which is a publicly stated goal I have. And now when most people think that, they think of maybe their grandfather or their father who was the last few years in a home, maybe had dementia, Alzheimer's, what have. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about living in my own home, paddleboarding with my great grandkids, snowshoeing, be in control of my own health, my own destiny. That's what I'm talking about. So as I evolved myself into that's what I want for myself, that's how I evolved my practice and working with people as well. So I take a very holistic approach and we touch on everything from, again, the mindset, the motivation, what's your purpose, your community, to, of course, nutrition, movement, other forms of stress, sleep, breath work, environmental factors, et cetera, all the way to the latest cutting edge technology, advanced science that is available, but it's not mainstream. So you just have to know where to go. So in some cases, I act as a bit of a concierge for my clients as well, who are prepared, and it's not for everyone, I understand that, who want to go and get stem cells or something to that effect. So it's very, very A to Z is what I work on with leaders now.
Fantastic. What's one thing you'd like to leave your listener with today?
Great question. I think the one thing is, I guess I kind of touched on it just a second ago. For me, how I was able to keep this weight off and stay healthy the last 8 years is, find that one thing that's going to drive you, whatever that goal is. I call it purpose. I call it your why. And, why are you making this change? Maybe you've already gone through it and now it's, how do I maintain this? Not saying you have to follow what I did, but, think back to how you were. Do you want to go back there? Probably not. And if you haven't started your journey yet, think of where you want to be and why you want to be it, and use that as your guiding light or your North Star, so to speak, so that every decision you make points back to that. Is this furthering me towards that life I want, that goal I want, or is it detracting from it? And I think that's the number one thing I'd like to leave people with.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your heart, for sharing your journey, the wisdom that you've learned, and for being vulnerable with us. So appreciated, Deepak. Thank you.
Thank you, and gratitude for having me on. I really appreciate it. And there's some really good questions, that earlier one. I don't think I've ever been asked that one before, so I know I appreciate that.
You are so welcome. I look forward to sharing this with the rest of the world. So
Thank you.
take care, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us at the Mind Myself podcast today. We know that time is precious and you've spent some of your valuable time with us. We're grateful. If you would like to reach out to our guest directly, the information is below. And if you would like more from Mind Myself, that information is also below. Please visit our website and check out all the information about the different complementary, holistic, and integrative healthcare approaches, information about health issues, more podcasts, tons of blogs, and we even have a community page for you where you could reach out and tell your story safely, or you could ask questions and perhaps somebody else in the world is going through something similar to you. In any case, we're so glad you're with us, and we're doing this because you matter.